Alright, what's up YouTube? It's me, I'm back. Today's YouTube video is going to be the Houston Rockets versus the Dallas Mavericks. Hakeem, a dream, Olajunon versus the Dirk Nowitzki. Woo! That's right. Center versus center MVP. I mean, you cannot finish out an NBA basketball series without including the Houston Rockets and the Dallas Mavericks, right? You cannot finish an NBA series without mentioning the legendary great Hakeem, a dream, Olajunon, and you cannot do it without Dirk Nowitzki. Now, these are two of the world's best basketball players has the NBA ever produced, and will go down in history as the greatest centers of all times in the NBA. Now, I've already did Patrick Ewing and Shaq. You know, we brought in David Robinson and Kevin Durant. Why not bring in these two and do a video on these two living legends? And they're living legends for a reason. Now, Hakeem, a dream, Olajuwon came in the 1980s. I forget what year he was drafted. I believe it was either 1981 or 1982, but he was drafted in the 1980s. And you see, at that time and period, he was at 7 foot tall. Some list him at 7'1", 260 pounds. And he was a force of nature. He was bigger, he was stronger, he was faster. He could slam dunk the basketball. And just like David Robinson, a lot of people don't give him a whole lot of credit. He also could hit deep range three-pointers. And he was good at blocking out and backing his back to the basket. And he was a guy that would get 15 to 20 rebounds, sometimes 25 rebounds a game. And when he came to the United States to play professional basketball, he showed that he was multi-talented. He could play basketball, he could swim, he could do track, he could play soccer. He was multi-talented. He was very good with his sports. Very well fit condition. And I'm mistaken, he was either the number 1 or the number 2 pick in the NBA draft, and either in 1981 or in 1982's NBA draft, and was chosen by the Houston Rockets. Now, during his development there, he met another star center, the legendary great Moses Malone. And at this point in time in history, that these two were called the Twin Towers. And let me tell you, the Houston Rockets won a lot of basketball games in the season, made the playoffs, of course. They won playoff series. And then I think during that time period, they had to contend against the Los Angeles Lakers, you know, Magic and them Los Angeles Lakers. And it wasn't until 1986, 1987 NBA season that Hakeem showed that he could compete with a Magic Johnson. And once the world saw that he could put up the same kind of numbers as Magic, people were shocked. People were in disbelief that he could do this. Even against a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, again, it showed that he could compete at a high competitive level and put up the same numbers. By the time we got to the 1988-1989 NBA season, he had some injuries. You know, they were this close to going to the NBA Finals and facing the Boston Celtics. You know, Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and those guys and those Boston Celtics. Woo! Yeah, I'm happy today. It's Sunday. I get a day off from both my jobs. Well, not a day off from my second job because I got to show up tomorrow and do post cleaning, but you get what I'm saying. So I'm making the video today because I will not make the video tomorrow because for 8 hours tomorrow, I'll be unavailable. But thank the point. Now back to the video. Now, what makes this fun and exciting for me is that we get to talk about these two players. Now, finally in the 1990s, he came into his own. He had one of the best basketball games in the 1992-1993 NBA season. It was against the San Antonio Spurs, And this was a game that went back and forth between center versus center. Hakeem versus David Robinson. And I talked about this in the last video when he guarded him so well and thought he had him contained. And then at the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter, he took it into a third gear and showed that not even the best center in the NBA could hold him. And he won MVP that year. But it wasn't until the 1994-1995 NBA season where the Houston Rockets finally done what never had been done before. They would have a chance to go to the NBA Finals. That year, in 94, they took out the Phoenix Suns in the first round. Very, 5 games in the series. Second round, did away with San Antonio, I believe. It was either San Antonio or Portland. And in the third round, it probably might have been San Antonio. They done around with their arch nemesis. And they advanced to the NBA Finals. And why Hakeem had already won MVP in the season, it was predicted he was going to win his first NBA championship and his first NBA Finals MVP. See, on this basketball roster at this time, I think they had, John Sally. I'm not mistaken. I'll have to go back and double check. He ended up on that basketball team. At that point, he weren't with the Detroit Pistons no more. At this point, he had been up and traded and made his way to Houston. Now, Clyde the Drugster hadn't came yet until their second championship run. And let's see, Robert Horry was on that basketball team. That's right. A lot of basketball fans only know Robert Horry when he was with the Los Angeles Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs, but he was with the Houston Rockets. So Robert Horry was on this basketball team too now. Sam Cassell was on this basketball team as well. So these were the Houston Rockets. And at this point in time in history, their opponents in the NBA Finals waiting for them was Patrick Ewing, John Starks. I think John Sally was with the New York Knicks. Now I'm thinking, he was with them New York Knicks. He wasn't with Detroit no more. He was with them New York Knicks, my bad. And it was going against the New York Knicks in the 1994 NBA Finals. And it was surreal because even though they didn't get the highest ratings at that point, the performance that Hakeem Dream Olajuwon had, it was overshadowed by the trial of O.J. Simpson. Like, here are people watching the NBA Finals, and they got to go breaking news because O.J. Simpson is on trial. And the trial kind of hurt the NBA Finals ratings in 1994 for quite a while. I mean, here you're on the verge of winning an NBA championship. You win NBA Finals MVP, and then you're ignored by another athlete from another famous professional sport, football in the NFL. It was actually kind of dissatisfying for him to put up 40 points in the NBA playoffs. Like when he up going against New York, he dropped, I think the first game he dropped 25 to 30 points in the first game. I think the Knicks tried to send the game into overtime. They still won game 1 in overtime if it went in overtime. We all know they won game 2, and then the Knicks came back and won games 3 and 4 and tied it up and made it 4-4. And then in game 5, they just took the lead, made it 3-2. And then they finished out the series in 6 games. And Houston Rockets, for the first time, I think, in either 20-plus-something years, won their first NBA championship in their franchise. And he got to be NBA Finals MVP, not just the NBA MVP, the Finals NBA MVP. Won his first championship, and in that same game, he had 20 rebounds, 20 blocks, 2 steals, made like 60% of his free throws, and scored 40 points in that basketball game. If not 40 points, then close to it. And to have to be ignored after spending 12 years in the NBA playing against Portland Trail Blazers, the Los Angeles Lakers, the San Antonio Spurs, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Phoenix Suns, because that was the teams in the 1990s that you had to go through to get to the Western Conference semifinals and make it to an NBA Finals. To have to be ignored was heartbreaking. And it wasn't until a year later that, again, they would go back and win back-to-back NBA championships. He would finally, once again, have a chance to do it again. He would win his second NBA championship title. Again, he became NBA Finals MVP. 2 championships, 2 years in a row, undefeated in the NBA Finals. And again, ignored by a retrial in 1995 when they defeated the Orlando Magics in 6 games of that NBA Finals. Again, he was being overshadowed by O.J. Simpson for the second year in a row. By this time period, Clyde the Drugster came, and they still had Sam Cassell, they still had Robert Horry, and this team was going to win a championship in 1996. But however, when they finally got Charles Barkley onto this basketball team, it didn't really seem to help because now the team had injuries, coach got fired, a new coach got hired, and this weren't the same Houston Rockets team anymore. And in the second round or in the third round, they fell victim to either San Antonio or lost to the Seattle Supersonics and lost. They were this close to going to the third NBA Finals and facing a returning Michael Jordan and those Chicago Bulls. And you see, after that, by the time we got into 1997, 1998 NBA season, the Hakeem Olajunon was traded from the Houston Rockets to another basketball team. And by that point, he was now on the downside of his NBA career. At that point, he had played like 15, 16 seasons in the NBA. And he was now an aging 34, 35-year-old center. And he wasn't in his prime anymore. And it showed that he could still put up great numbers by the time they sent him to the Toronto Raptors, if I'm mistaken. Either the Toronto Raptors or Atlanta. I'll have to double check my sources. But by that time we got to the 2000s, it weren't the same player anymore. You know, he just could not perform at a high level. You know, he was able to guard a young Shaquille O'Neal before Shaq got in his prime. And when Shaq got in his prime and they had a rematch, Battle of the Centers, Shaq showed that he improved greatly. And at this point, the passing of the torch was passed to Shaquille O'Neal at that very point. Some people might say I'm correct on that. Some might say I'm wrong and inaccurate. But at that point, it had been passed. You know, when he played against David Robinson and David Robinson retired, you know, David Robinson gave him the torch. And when it was time for him to give up the torch, he gave it to Shaquille O'Neal. And I think Shaquille O'Neal will probably be the first one to tell you that there was a passing of the torch when it came to the centers in the NBA during the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. Now, for the other player, Dirk Nowitzki, as we fast approach the 1996 1997's NBA draft, we had Dirk Nowitzki being drafted to another team that was acquired by the NBA. Now, the Dallas Mavericks was a basketball team that came in the late 1970s, early 1980s, maybe mid-80s, possibly up until that point. And this was a franchise that just became a part of the NBA. You know, and Dirk Nowitzki is German, and he stood at around 6'12", 6'13", close to 7 feet, if not 7 feet. And he weighed in some 245 to 250 pounds. And he was a monstrosity on the basketball court. No one had never seen nobody like Dirk Nowitzki. Nobody saw a guy that could slam dunk the basketball. The guy could shoot 3-pointers from half court at the top of the key. And he had this long reach ass wingspan. When he went like this, and the funny looking way that he shoot the ball, it would go in. And the fact that he could do all of this was amazing to people. You know, that squad had, you know, Steve Nash when they traded him from Phoenix to the Dallas Mavericks. You had, it was like a one-punch-two combination. They were able to compete with the Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Houston Rockets. They were able to compete with these teams in the West. And I remember every time I turned on the TV, the first round, it was always Houston Rockets versus the Dallas Mavericks. And Dallas seemed to always win the better of those series. Second round, we would see a nice matchup of Dallas versus San Antonio. Those games always got to a game 6 or a game 7. I mean, it was the stuff of legends. I mean, to see Tim Duncan put up 30 points. Dirk Nowitzki put up 34 points. Tim Duncan gets 10 blocks. Dirk Nowitzki turned around, he got 20 blocks. It's like, it's unbelievable. Back and forth, back and forth. But when Dirk Nowitzki got into his prime, it was the 2002-2003 NBA season when Dirk Nowitzki put up a tier of 40 points against a Minnesota Timberwolves that was trying to advance, which that series was incredible because Dirk Nowitzki had a chance to do something in his career that he hadn't done, and Garnett and the Timberwolves beat him in 7 games. They went to the second round or the third round against the Los Angeles Lakers in 2002. And if Garnett could somehow get the Timberwolves to take on the Lakers in 7 games, he could have got to the third round and made it to a finals. And it was again later in 2006, 2007 NBA season when Dallas had finally done what no one could have done to those Phoenix Suns. They eliminated them in 5 games. At this point, Steve Nash was going against his best friend, Dirk Nowitzki, and Jason Terry and those guys at that midpoint. Jason Terry would be going back and forth between Dallas and the Atlanta Hawks. He would be going back and forth between these teams. And finally, in 2007, Dirk Nowitzki became the NBA MVP. And unfortunately and disappointingly, because in 2006, he would lose in the NBA Finals against a Shaquille O'Neal, a Dwayne Wade, and a Hugh Haslam in the NBA Finals. It was the Dallas Mavericks versus the Miami Heat, and they lost in 6 games of the NBA Finals. And this was a game that Dirk Nowitzki felt that he could have won because Dirk had better numbers than Shaq. I know a lot of people don't want to admit it, but he was able to dominate Shaq in that game. Because at this point, this weren't the Orlando Magic Shaq. This weren't the Los Angeles Lakers Shaq. This was a competitive Shaq, but this Shaq started to age, and Dirk was able to put up 40 points. He was able to match Shaq's physicality. And even though he lost in that series, it showed right there that all Dirk needed was to make that 3-pointer and send the game into overtime. And it would have been Dallas that would have won their first NBA championship, not the Miami Heat. And for a whole year, and for the rest of that year, Dirk sat back in a gym, got a phone call from Larry Bird. They don't talk about it a lot. And Larry Bird had one answer for Dirk Nowitzki. Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and shoot 3,000 shots. And do it every single day. And from that point on, Dirk Nowitzki would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and shoot 3,000 shots every day for the rest of 2006. But in 2007, they went against a Baron Davis and the Golden State Warriors when he became the NBA MVP and he took it from his pal Steve Nash. And they got bounced out first round. 2008, 2009 was the worst 2 years of Dirk Nowitzki's NBA career. He got injured 2 years in a row. And then in 2010, they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round. A Kobe Bryant, Pat Gasol, Andrew Bynum, Derek Fisher, them Lakers. And then in 2011, it was revenge. First round, they destroyed the Lakers, knocked the Lakers out. Woo! The Nature Boy. Sorry, I get happy sometimes. And second round, took care of a young Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, bitch slapped him around, took them out of the second round. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Third round, took out San Antonio in 7 games. I'm like, what the fuck? What Tim Duncan, what's going on? Just bitch slap, move San Antonio out the way, and all of a sudden, what do I see? Dallas Mavericks going back to the NBA Finals for the second time in their franchise. And who do they end up facing in the 2011 NBA Finals? It is a rematch of the Miami Heat with LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Hugh Haslam, Maurice Chalmers, and those boys with a veteran Alonzo Mourning. And what do I see happen in this series? Dirk Nowitzki dominate the whole series. Dirk Nowitzki dropping three-pointer. God damn. Dirk just... And I'm like, what the hell? Like, LeBron, get off your ass and do something. LeBron calling to the referee. And Dirk just... I'm like, oh my fucking God. Dirk Nowitzki just dropping threes. Man 7 feet tall, hitting three-pointers. And can't nobody stop Dirk Nowitzki. And he wins his first NBA championship. Now, whatever happened in the 2008 NBA season, I don't know. Because to me, it seemed like Dallas Mavericks had a chance to win 2 NBA championships in a row. I don't know what happened. And then, I'm talking about in 2012, they had a chance to do it two years in a row. 2013, Dirk Nowitzki is sidelined with injury. 2014, the guy is again hurt. And by the 2015 NBA season, they lose to Steph. Woo! Curry and them Golden State Warriors. And a 20-point blowout. And then in 2016 and 2017, that's when Dirk Nowitzki's numbers take a nosedive. And it's like, we're not seeing the Dirk Nowitzki from the 1990s. We're not seeing that Dirk Nowitzki that put up those incredible numbers in those finals in the 2000s. It seemed like now we're seeing a Dirk Nowitzki that's towards the end of his NBA career and just ain't what he once was. I mean, he is the face of the franchise, but at this point, he's been in the NBA for about 15 years, going on his 16th season, and you would think that at some point, the window has closed on him trying to go back to another finals. Of course, in that second time he went to the finals, he had Jason Kidd, and some people claim that if it weren't for Jason Kidd, Dirk Nowitzki would have not even got his first NBA championship. So there's controversy between that. You know, you had Jason Terry on that team, so yeah, you had Sean Marion on that basketball team. Yeah, I know my NBA basketball. So now, who is better and why? See, with Hakeem the Dream, Olajunon, and with the potential that he had as a center, he had the potential to win at least 4 NBA championships. If not 4, he could have won 3 out of 4 championships. So Hakeem had the potential to win more championships. Just sadly but disappointing, he only won 2. Dirk Nowitzki went back to the finals twice. I mean, Dirk lost his first NBA finals, won his second one, set himself up a chance to win back-to-back championships, because when we saw OKC go against Miami, we saw that were not going to be the team to beat Miami, obviously. And had it been another rematch of the Dallas Mavericks and the Heats, I think Dirk could have got 2 titles that way. So I would say by a close margin that Hakeem is a little bit of a better player than Dirk Nowitzki. But if we went prime-wise, in his prime, Hakeem would be able to handle Dirk Nowitzki. Now, Dirk in his prime would have destroyed an aging Hakeem Olajuwon. Let's just be honest. So I would say if we're going by the standpoint of their primes, by a slight hair, I'm going to say it's going to be the dream Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, be patient with my Michael Jordan video. I gotta do some research on Michael Jordan versus Vince Carter, Chicago Bulls versus Toronto Raptors. Please be patient with me. It's gonna take 3 days to do the research on that video. I'm not finished. I told you I was gonna talk about Michael Jordan 2 more times. I ain't forgot about LeBron James. So calm down. I'll get LeBron in the series before we finish out the NBA series. Until then, peace.